interesting moms in the Bible. And I'm sure that you guys, when you hear them and who they were the mother of, you'll recognize them all. The first one was Eve, which was the mother of Cain, Abel, and Seth. Now you think about those three boys, they weren't the greatest, were they? One killed one. So they weren't the greatest children in the world. So if we think, we're not doing a good job, yet we're doing the best we can, and we're asking God for help, and we're trying to live according to His Word and raise our kids up according to His Word, that's all God expects out of us. The rest is up to them. And then there was Sarah, the mother of Isaac. And we all know her. And Rebekah, Jacob and Esau's mother. Bathsheba. Everybody knows Bathsheba, right? That was the one David looked upon. And she was the mother of Solomon, which was known as the wisest man in history. And he was. He knew how to decide who was a good mother or who was a mother by when they brought the baby to him and they asked him for him to judge which one the baby belonged to. The one mother, she said it was hers, and she had laid on hers in the night and killed it, and then put the dead one by the other lady and took hers. So he said, okay, we'll split it in half and give a piece to each one. Well, the mother it didn't belong to, she was all for that. And I still can't comprehend that, because I can't think of any mother that would allow a child to be split in half so I could have half of it, knowing that it's not my child. But she was, and that gave Solomon the wisdom to know that child was not hers, that it belonged to the woman that was willing to let her have it rather than have it cut in half. And then we had, I hope I'm saying this name right, Jochebed, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam's mother. Worked for the Lord. And then we had Mary, the mother of Jesus. Can you imagine what an honor that was when God spoke to her to be the mother of His Son? So I'm thankful today to be a mother. Had some sad times in my life as a mother, which I'm sure everybody has. But there's no greater honor than being a mother. And along with being a mother is a great responsibility. I know the Bible tells us, you older ladies or you older women, you teach the young ones. And I know I've seen some things, but just like Brother Hagee's wife said this morning, rather than being embarrassed, I didn't go to them and say anything, but I felt like it. I felt I should have, because they're young in the Lord and they need to be taught. God has standards for His house, and I believe He demands respect in His house. And as Christian mothers, we should have that respect, and we should want that respect. Not only, God has blessed us with our husbands too. I'm going to talk about them just a little bit today. A praying wife is very important to a husband. Our pastor, his wife, and I'm not saying anything against her because I'm sure she prays for him, because I've known her for many years. But he needs someone that's going to stand with him and pray for him and believe God for him, and to believe in the things that God has asked him to do, and to be a helpmate. And that's the way all of us are. With my husband, I try to be a helpmate. We don't need to run the house. We're to guide it, guide the children while the husband is out working, but we don't need to run things. And I remember my sister-in-law, she was teaching on a praying wife. And one of the ladies of the church got so mad she got up and left the class, because it said that you should be submissive to your husband. And that just infuriated her. Well, you know what? If you love your husband, it's not hard to be submissive to them, is it? We love God. We want to do what God wants us to do. I don't want to do anything that's going to make God displeased with me. And my prayer when I was a younger mother and my children were younger, I would pray, God, help me to be the best mother that I can possibly be. And it seemed like no matter how hard I tried, I still, my kids strayed. But I could trust the Lord to keep them safe and bring them back. And I knew that in my heart. Sometimes we need to look at our own lives. You can teach your children by telling them they are taught, or you can't teach your children by telling them, but they're taught by what they see. You hear that so much. I've heard people say, you're telling me that, but I can't hear a word you're saying because of your actions. So we have to mean what we say, and when we say that we're a Christian, we have to live like a Christian. And when we have these children that are disobedient, and I know they're blessings from God, and I'm sure some of us have wondered, are we sure they're from God or the devil? Because they can really break your heart at times. And they do. But that's all part of growing up. We just need to look to God. Let Him direct us. I told my grandson, I said, he was having problems, and I don't usually say a whole lot to him, but I said, son, I'm praying that God give you guidance in your life and that you listen to Him and get wisdom. And he texted back and said, you're the greatest grandma anyone could ever ask for. And I thought, well, that was so sweet, because I wasn't expecting it. But we have to act like Christians around our children. And there's times I'm sure that I didn't act like one. Temper got the best of me or something. But it didn't mean I loved them any less. I still loved my children. We think of Eve, she was the mother of all living, but she was tempted by Satan. He got her to doubt God's goodness by focusing on the one thing she couldn't have. She forgot all the good things that God had done and had blessed her with in the garden. And she became discontented and feeling sorry for herself because she couldn't share in God's knowledge of good and evil. She wanted more than what God had for her. It wasn't her place to share in the knowledge, God's knowledge of good and evil. If she had never disobeyed Him, she would have never known evil, would she? But it was that disobedience that caused evil in her life. So she allowed Satan to subvert her trust in God. And we know in our heart that God has everything under control. God is in control. I remember when I lost my first husband, and I couldn't understand why I lost him because he was in church, and he loved the Lord, and I couldn't understand why God took him at such a young age. And I questioned God about it. And I just felt like God came to me in a dream, and He said, he's not dead, he's just begun to live. And it was my husband that told me that in the dream. I said, why did you die and leave me? He said, I didn't die, I've just begun to live. And from that, I had peace in my heart. And I was able to accept giving him up at a young age. Because I realized, God knows the big picture. There might have been something down the road that would have caused him to turn away from God or whatever. And I definitely did not want that. So I accepted God's plan. And we have to accept God's plan if we want to be a part of His program. And I believe we do. We know in our heart that God has everything under control, but sometimes we let that doubt slip in where our children are concerned. How many of you, you say, well, I trust God for my children. I believe God's going to bring them back. And I just, I know God can handle it and God can do this. But what do? We step in and we try and take care of it ourselves. And when we do, we mess it up. Eve began her life in the garden. She was a wife, a mother, companion, helper, and co-manager of God's creation. She had a big responsibility, didn't she? And you would think she would have been happy with that. But there's still some things that some people won't. As you'll find out when you get older, a lot of them things don't mean nothing to you. You'll say, I wish I could get rid of them. But she was young at that time, and you have to realize that. And she wanted more than what God had. I think back when I lost my son, Randy. It's only been a few months ago. And I remember my sister calling me, and she said, Mary, I know you don't think you'll be able to get through this, but you can. And I couldn't imagine that, because I don't think any mother ever expects to bury a child. And he may have been 54 years old, but he was still my baby. You have a hard time letting go of them. But as God seen fit and gave me the peace in my heart that he was going to be with him because of the things that he done. And you don't know what that does for a mother. You're able to let go of them if you know they're going to a better place. And I believe with all my heart that God just called him home. And so he went home to be with the Lord. I don't understand why he took him early in life. I don't blame God for it, because I know that he has a plan for each of us. But I used to tell him all the time, son, you'll outlive me and my husband both. But he didn't. The only way we can ever comprehend God's love for us is to compare it to a mother's love for her child. Now, there's not a mother in here, I don't think, this morning that wouldn't do anything in her power for her children. She would give them the last bit of strength that she had to help them. Do without herself to give them something. Give them her last penny. Grandmas do that too. But that's okay. We love them, and we want to show them that we love them. And sometimes we love them a little too much. We need to let them grow up. Because I bet there's not one in here that when the older people, that when we got in trouble, our parents got us out. I know mine didn't. And I've heard my husband say, you do the crime, do the time. And he means it. Believe me, he doesn't change his mind. I've seen it with his own children. He does not change his mind. You do the crime, you do the time. And he's made them stand responsible for themselves. Now, this is after they're grown. This is not when they're little kids, but this is after they're grown. And Philippians 4:19 says, my God will meet all your needs according to his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. So we know that God has everything in control, don't we? Amen. We don't have to worry about that. God is able to meet our every need. He may not give you your every want, but he'll give you your every need. And I've experienced that in the 44 years that I've been walking with the Lord and serving God. I get so excited. I tell my husband all the time, I just don't understand why people don't get excited in the Lord. I can sit at home and just feel God's Spirit and be so excited in God and in the things that he's doing. And sometimes you come here and you're like, what happened? But it's people come to church, they don't come expecting from God, but they come with full of the world and thinking about the things in the world instead of the things of God. We come into the house of God, we should show our children this is a time to worship and to praise and to pray. Teach them how to pray. When Mary took Jesus to the temple and met Simeon, he took Jesus and said, "This child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too." God was preparing Mary for what was going to happen, wasn't he? That wasn't a shock, I don't believe. I believe God prepares all of us. I believe he lets us know when our time is up. I really do. Because I've seen it. I've buried a husband. I've buried a son. We've buried a brother, a mother, a father, a sister. And I've seen it in their lives. I've seen when the end came. That was one of the first things I asked my son. "Son, are you ready? Is everything all right between you and God?" That was the most important thing the most important question that I had for him. Is everything okay between you and God? Because I knew the type of life that he lived. And if he didn't make things right, he wasn't going to make it. But those were some of the last words he said to me. "Everything is okay, Mom. Everything is okay." And I thank God for that. And then there was other things that he said that let me know that God was there with him in the end. Because he died such a peaceful death. And I don't believe sinners do that. So as a mother, we need to know that about our children, to be able to deal with the death and to deal with things that happen. We need to know that our children are safe in the arms of God. I was thinking about that song we sung this morning, "What a Day." That was one of my dad's favorite songs, and he used to sing that. He was a preacher, backslidden preacher, but he loved that song. And we used to sing it when he was saved, but then he backslid. And I don't think he got saved until probably right before he passed away. I'm not sure, but God spoke to him many times while he was alive. Spoke to him when he delivered him from cigarettes. Spoke to him when he saved him. God is a good God, awesome, mighty God we serve. And I think that we need to, if we don't teach our children that today, who is? Because if you can't see in the church today that there's more world than there is God, then you're blind. And I'll be the first one to tell you. You can't just come to church and serve the Lord. You've got to serve him every day and every night. You got to, first thing in the morning when you get up, you got to make sure that you're right with God. And that's the first thing I do when I get up, is read my Bible. Before I have my coffee or anything, I read my Bible. And I was telling Pastor Walls Thursday, I said, I've been reading the Bible through, and I have grown to love God's Word so much that I can't wait to get in it and read. And I'm seeing things, I've read it through probably 6 or 7 times, but now I'm seeing things in there that I never seen before. God has opened my eyes to those things. Mary lived her life pleasing to God. And that's what a Christian mom does, isn't it? That's what we're supposed to do. Live our lives pleasing to God. And if we do that, and when our children see us, we're going to make mistakes. I wish I could say I've been perfect for 40-something years that I've served the Lord, but far from it. I have let him down so many times. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. But the thing is when we do something wrong and the Spirit convicts us of that wrong, we make it right then. I don't wait till I go to bed. I used to. I used to pile them all up and say I'll get them all at once when I go to bed tonight, because I didn't know if I was going to wake up. But you don't know that. You don't know you're going to make it to bed. So you better take care of it then. We don't let our children grow up. We try to live their lives for them or through them, making decisions for them instead of letting them make decisions for themselves. And I don't know about the rest of you. I can only speak for myself, but probably the hardest thing I ever experienced in my life, and Jerry might even contradict me on this, was letting my kids go, letting them grow up. He'd probably say, "You still haven't done it, Mom." But I try to keep a distance because I know if I get too close to him, he's right. I'm still telling him what to do or what he should be doing. But you have to make your own mistakes to learn. You know, if somebody is there getting you out of trouble every time you get in trouble, you don't learn anything. And I think a lot of kids think today that parents are always going to be there. Not true. They're not going to always be there. One day, God's going to call us home, and you're going to have to make your own decisions. And whether you get there or not is totally up to you. It has to do with your walk with the Lord. Are you right in God's eyes? Are you walking pleasing to Him today? Or are you walking to please yourself? Are you more worldly than you are godly? And I hope I've not been a stumbling block to anybody. I hope that I've encouraged people. But you know, sometimes we still say things, and I'm bad to just say what's on my mind. Luann told me one time, "You're a hard woman." But I don't look at myself like that. I always say, if you don't want the truth, don't ask me. And so, you know, but God has been good to me. And I hope I've taught my kids the right way. And I was sitting, one other thing I wanted to do here. I was sitting on the couch after God had given me my message, and it's just like the Lord spoke to me, "Read a poem." And I thought, well, I don't have no poems, you know. So thank God for the computer. I got on there, and I looked for a poem. And I found this one. It says, "I always knew I would be a mom since I was just a girl. And when God blessed me with my 2 boys, you each became my world. He said, now take these precious gifts and show them your greatest love, because He gave them here to me from heaven up above. He said to teach them what is right by what you do and say. And please remember as a mom to teach them how to pray. The years go by so fast, you know, no matter what we do. And wherever your paths may lead, my heart will go with you. I only hope I served you well and showed you greatest love. I hope I taught you how to pray and thank your God above. Always remember to be your mom is a blessing every day. For to me, God sent a special gift, Randy and Jerry, when He put you in my care. Now Randy has gone on, this is something I added. Now Randy has gone on to be with God, but I'll always carry him in my heart. And thank God for the time I was allowed to be with him and share his love He had for children. Randy, a lot of you may not have known my son Randy, but I don't think any man has ever loved children the way that man did. And he helped raise probably about 13. So, you know, to young ages. But I'm sure his love and what he taught them has been instilled in their hearts to this day. He wanted to come and testify so bad when he was in the hospital. He wanted to give his testimony when he never made it. He had asked the pastor already if he could testify. But he was a man that loved children, and he would do anything for them. He'd give them his last penny He just had a giving heart. And children today, one of them told him, said, you don't know what an influence you have had on my life. You're my mentor. And now that boy's in college, and that's the testimony he left with that boy. So I'm thankful to see some of the things that happen because of the way I raised my children. I raised my children to always be respectful to elders. Don't ever let me catch you being disrespectful to elders. And don't be a bully. I have to tell my little great-granddaughter sometimes, if you tell fibs, nobody's going to believe you when you tell them the truth. And she's funny. I mean, she's not even 4 yet, and we pray over our food all the time. And she sees this. And one day she was sitting on the couch beside me eating something. I don't remember what it was. And she said, Gigi, is mine in Jesus' name too? I said, yes, it is. Yes, it is. So we teach them how to pray when they're little. You got to teach them these things from a small age up. You can't wait till they get grown then try to put this in their heads. They don't hear it. But if you teach them when they're young, they won't forget. And I believe that. Teach them the ways of God, and when they grow old, they'll not turn away. That'll always be in their heart. And I thank God. I thank God for a mother. I know that when I was a little girl and had chicken pox, I think there's probably about 4 of us that had them at the same time. She didn't have enough lap to hold all of us, so she got her a rocking chair and put it between the beds, and she would sing Christian songs. I never forgot that. I never forgot the kind of mother that she was, how when you get home from school, she always had a big, we called them dish pans, full of tea cakes, which were sugar cookies to you guys, but to us they were tea cakes. And she was just a mother that was always there. She was a friend that I could go to when I had problems, and I could discuss them with her, and she would give me advice. That's a godly mother, really. One that you can talk to and won't get mean with you and give you advice. You may not take it, but they can give you good advice. So I hope you honor your mother if you're still blessed enough to have her with you. You don't really know how blessed you are to have your mother with you still. There's many times when I reach for the phone to call mine and realize she's not here anymore. But I had a good mother, and I respected her until the day she passed. And I respected my father, even though he wasn't the best father in the world. I respected him until the day he went on. And that's the way we're supposed to be. I'm in my 50s and 60s, and I never backtalked my parents. I told somebody Wednesday night, you guys parent different from me, because I won't say what I said. But I don't deal with them like that. And so, God has been good to me. I'm blessed to have 2 boys. I got one now, and I consider it a blessing. I know he would do anything in the world for me, and I brought him up as best I could in God's ways. And I'm thankful for that. And maybe, a lot of times our problems is we don't show our appreciation to our children enough. We need to let them know that we love them and they're appreciated. If you want them not to be so mean. Let them know you love them and appreciate them. And as a mother, I want to thank all of you for coming this morning and wish you a happy Mother's Day, and hope the rest of your day goes beautiful. And your children that you have, I was looking on Facebook this morning, and I've seen all the gifts that the mothers are getting from their children, and that's exciting. Lets them know, that they are appreciated and they're loved. And so I thank God for that today. That's about all I have, Pastor Walls.